and welcome to Question Time with the Prime Minister. This is the first dialogue live on television with the Prime Minister and voters ahead of a general election. Now, these 12 potential voters here come from all walks of life and range in age from 22 to 64. Now, over the past few days, we've also asked you for questions, and response has been enthusiastic. And while we will not be able to take all of the questions specifically, we'll cover the key areas brought up. Now, more than half the questions covered the areas of politics, some 40% on social issues, with the cost of living, housing and foreign talent the key areas. We'll be discussing these issues tonight, and PM Lee will also be taking questions live as you watch us. So email, text or send us a message via our microsite. So let's start, and we'll begin with political issues. PM, question from a viewer, Daniel Yap. He asks, politics in our independence days was necessarily adversarial because of the threat of communism. Why is an adversarial approach to politics still preferred today? Do we not recognize that almost all the political parties in Singapore have the good of the nation at heart?
I think that's a very good question with which to start this discussion. There are several answers to this. The first one is that politics today, I think, is much less adversarial than it was when the communists were around. Then it was really hammer and tongs, and it went at it day after day, all hours, and without restraint. Today, I think it's a much more restrained business, and that's to the good. Secondly, I would say it depends on which parties you're talking about. Not all opposition parties are the same. Some work within our system and try to play a constructive role. Others try to pull down the system and bring it into disrepute. And I think there's a difference in the way they approach politics and the way we approach them. Thirdly, I would say, even for the parties which are constructive-minded, that it's inherent in the nature of democratic politics that it is adversarial, because politics is a tussle for power. And that's what it's about. I mean, you want to be in charge, you want to have the power, you want to be able to do things. And therefore, there's a clash. And an opposition which spends its time helping the government to do better is going to spend a long time in the opposition. So even a constructive opposition will from time to time be very strongly motivated to go and to push and to trip the government up and to get in. So that's inherent in the system, and we have to accept that. But I think we're not doing badly, and I would say that our concerns about adversarial politics is why we feel that it's good for us to have the PAP as a broad party representing many views and having some of these trade-offs and tensions resolved within a party rather than between parties. I think it's better for Singapore.
Prime Minister, the PAP has ruled the country since 1963 with an iron hand. Not so much for the last 10 years, but still, you control the country, you control the government, you control the resources within the country, and there is a crying need in certain segments of society whereby, we want plurality of views, right? And at the end of the day, the PAP is one party, one whip. How do you achieve multiple views? How do you accommodate that? I mean, we have Lim Boon Heng yesterday, was crying about differing view, right? And many Singaporeans feel that a lot of agendas that the government put forth is bulldozed through without much feelings for the ground.
I think if we bulldoze agendas through, we wouldn't stay in power very long, because in the end we have to govern with the consent of the people and in the interest of the people, and we have to carry the people and persuade them. There are debates within the party, there are debates between the party and other participants. The IR is one good example where we had a very intense debate. But in the end, it was not that we overruled Lim Boon Heng. But if you remember, when we discussed this in Parliament back in 2005, Boon Heng made a speech in Parliament, and it was a powerful speech, and he made it with a lot of passion and emotion. And he said, I was against IRs, But when I looked at the case and what the IRs could bring to us, in the end, I could not say no to the 25 or 30,000 jobs. And that's what made him emotional, that he had to make the choice and he had to decide in the end what is the interest of Singapore. So I think that there's a lot of discussion and debate which goes on. Some of it we can discuss openly, and I think increasingly more things can be discussed openly. But I would be hesitant to say that everything which is in the open is better, because sometimes in the open it becomes more wayang and harder to solve.
But wouldn't a rigorous debate be more enlightening to the public, and that will also encourage, Singaporeans to actually come up with their views and
yes,
less apathetic?
I think on issues, yes. If you are making a negotiation, I mean, Nachi is in the unions, he will tell you, if you are negotiating with the employer, you never go to the press, because if you go and take a stand, and the employer takes a stand, and both sides dig in, you're in trouble. But if you are debating economic policy or social policy or what should we do about the budget, then I think it's good to have a good debate. And that's why in Parliament we have the opposition, and that's why we've changed the rules so that in the next Parliament, whatever happens, there'll be 9 opposition members. And then you can have a debate.
Prime Minister, the problem is the NCMP system and NMP system is not a real opposition.
Why not?
They're not a party. They don't have the time. They don't have the time, and they're not given the years to build and mature in their views. And, they're not given the space to breathe and build. And, a lot of Singaporeans want an alternative voice in the event something untoward, for reasons we never know, happens to the PAP.
PM, before you respond to that, maybe could I just get Matthew? Sorry, Matthew also want to say something.
Okay, it's
and
actually
then we'll come to like Nachi.
with regards to the interest of the people. What I want to ask is what the people are talking about, and it's regarding the Potong Pasir and Hougang issue. Why is there a need, as I quote you, to have a distinction? Understandably, these constituencies chose to vote for the opposition, but shouldn't a good government be fair to all citizens regardless of their political vote? Because at the end of the day, when we look back on the Singapore Pledge, it states all that. It's for democracy, it's for the happiness of the people. And at the moment, there seems to be a lot of unhappiness on the ground over this matter.
Maybe from Nachi first before...
Go ahead.
Yes, I just want to go back to what was mentioned about our former SG, Mr. Lim. I think the way he reacted to the issue yesterday shows the passion he had for the workers. I think there was unemployment and there was issues for jobs. And I think when he went for it, it was for the jobs. And I think now he realized that there are also other repercussions because of that.
Okay.
So I think that shows his passion. And I think we should take it in that spirit of... and I think enough debate was made. I think he openly mentioned that there were debate and it was discussed thoroughly. And even on a union point, like what the PM has mentioned, we discuss. But that doesn't mean that we are going to discuss it openly with all the other parties.
Now let's look at the playing field politically. I think what Kurt was trying to bring
I disagree with you that the NCMPs are marginalized and squeezed, because they have full rights to participate in the debate, all debates. They can argue, they can establish themselves, and they belong to political parties. These are not independents. They belong to political parties. In fact, Sylvia Lim is in the Workers' Party, and she worked closely with Mr. Loh Tia Kiang in Parliament over these last 5 years. And the system is such that if you are there 5 years, people get to know you, you establish yourself. The next time you contest, I think you are in a much stronger position. So I think it's a good system which ensures that there's always an opposition voice in Parliament.
And I think Matthew also wanted to
Let's answer
clarify about the distinction.
I think when it comes to opposition and the government constituencies, national programs, everybody participates, right? I mean, you have HDB, you have national defense, SDF protects everybody, you have schools, you have hospitals, you have roads, you have trains, it covers everybody. But when you have to make a choice who goes first and who goes second, then I think that one has to pay attention to who supported the government more and who didn't. Because if you ask the people in Potong Pasir, whom do they want to make the government of Singapore? I think they will say they want the government to be the PAP. So too in Hougang. But then you ask them, whom are you going to vote for? They said, well, they want to vote for Mr. Chiam or Mr. Loh. Now, in other words, they are depending on somebody else to vote for their PAP so that they can have the luxury of voting for Mr. Chiam or Mr. Loh. Now, if everybody in Singapore does that, we are in trouble. So there has to be an incentive to vote for the government. And going first or second, well, that's just that little bit of difference.
Let's talk to someone who's actually from one of these opposition wards. First-time voter, Edmund?
Yes, correct.
Potong Pasir.
In Potong Pasir.
Yeah, I'm from Pasir. Yes, Pierre, regarding your point, right, actually I feel that most people actually support Mr. Chiam as a person because he actually serves the people, and people of Potong Pasir used to feel that he can represent our needs better. But isn't it unfair to really divide us because we live in Potong Pasir? We now have a division based on the area you live in. And now looking at, say, Toa Payoh or Bishan Toa Payoh, where they have the new 5-year master plan, so Potong Pasir has really been left out of the upgrading queue twice already.
And maybe if I may just add the opinion of some people have written in, I won't rattle off the names, they've also asked, what about those who did support or will be supporting the PAP in these opposition wards, but somehow they were outnumbered? Then they are suffering in a sense for other people's choices.
It goes the other way too. The opposition voters in the PAP wards, who are not always so few, get carried along with the PAP ward. I think you have to go with a group and the election unit, and the election unit is a constituency, and you vote it that way, and we have to treat it on that basis. Ideally, Potong Pasir will say you vote for the PAP, but you find Mr. Chiam a place in Parliament. But you didn't do that. You voted for Mr. Chiam. So who is going to provide a PAP government in Parliament? And somebody has to do that.
But PM, these are nationwide programs, and these are funded by taxpayers'
Fair
money.
enough, and therefore they apply to everybody.
Right, but don't you think it should be based on merit, as in which estates are older, then they should be getting first?
Well, we pay attention to that too, but if two estates are equal, then I think we have to ask who supported the government more.
But if I can look at it differently, if I can reframe it, the way I get the sense from the current GE that's coming on, there's this growing opposition. They say they want an alternate voice in Parliament. And if you look at it, when we look at the ground, people do support PAP. But I do get a sense that people want an alternate voice, a place where they can voice their opinions, which I get a sentiment that they don't have a space or place to do that. That's why they are for PAP, but they vote for the opposition.
No, and we acknowledge that, which is why we changed the rules so that whatever happens in the next Parliament, there'll be 3 times as many opposition members as this time. There'll be 9 NC MPs, plus on top of that, there'll be 9 nominated MPs, and that's 18 non-government voices in Parliament. And we didn't have to do that, but we, the PAP government, decided it would make sense for us to enhance the opportunity for alternative voices to be in Parliament, so that when we debate issues, the opinions can be aired, we can have a full debate, the issue can be joined. Otherwise, even if we pass the legislation and people go out and say, well, I didn't have a chance to have my objections expressed, I think we are in a weaker position. Okay. There's nothing which we do which we are afraid to argue. In fact, if anything, people think that we are too eager to argue.
Sorry, can I just jump in there to say, would you